Hey, all you RadRover enthusiasts! I thought I'd do a video about battery care because it's really essential for the life of your bike. It's the heartbeat of the bike. What I recommend, if you haven't you've had your RadRover for about 6 months or so, it's probably a good idea to look through your manual. You'll probably find some interesting things. I happened to be looking through mine and I ran across this table of contents. Interesting about this table of contents. This will it's not really set in stone, but it'll give you an idea about the condition of your battery, mileage versus amount of time required to charge it. So if you do like 5 miles, it's supposed to be 1 hour charge time. So if your battery's taking longer than 1 hour, then chances are the condition of the battery is kind of poor. Now I did one battery and it came in at I had like 7 miles on it, a little less, like almost 7, not quite, 6.8 or 6.9, somewhere around there. I set it up on this pedestal here and I'm just going to let the camera run. And I put it on the charger. I timed it. It took 1 hour and 25 minutes. So if you look at the table, that battery would be considered as excellent. So that battery is in excellent condition. Now, when I bought my RadRover, I bought an extra battery and an extra charger. So I have 2 batteries and 2 chargers. This battery is, I put the label down towards the bottom. Let me widen out a little bit. This is sort of my spare battery. This is the one that actually came with the bike. The reason why I know that, because I have the lightning bolt on the bottom. And then the other battery that's on the bike has a lightning bolt on the top. That's the newer battery. What I try to do is cycle these batteries, and because it's important that they're used. If you don't use them and you charge them up, just let them go on the shelf, they will go completely dead. And if you leave them that condition, and then one day you go to charge it, it won't charge. So it's real important to keep the charge levels up on these bikes. My little setup, it's just something I can roll in and out of the house during the summertime. I live in Arizona, and southern Arizona, and I'm getting ready for summer. So this is where I'll be storing my batteries and charging my batteries. Now I am looking into a bag that helps keep this thing, if it happens to catch on fire, it won't burn down the house. So I'm looking at some bags. I found one that's almost, it's the right size this way, it's the right size this way, but the lengthwise it's like an inch too short. But they are out there. I would suggest if you have a spare battery, you store it in something that's fireproof and explosion proof, just in case. So that's something I'll be looking into, and also I suggest also a timer. You can set a timer. I'm going to be looking into that also. Well, I believe in order to understand how a battery works is understand how it's made. The lithium litho battery packs are made up of, I don't have a cell to show you, but it's similar in size to this piece of pipe. And what they do is, and I would bet, because it's a 48 volt, they probably have 4 sections of 12 volt cells in here. So they have a bunch of cells connected together in one section making 12 volts, another section making 12 volts, another section making 12 volts, and another section making 12 volts. And then it's all tied together with a board, what have you, that helps manage the battery. What you need to know about how this works: if one of these cells, just one, loses half of its capacity, it affects that whole section. So if you have a section of 12 volts and this drops down to half its capacity, that section now is only putting out half, maybe 6 volts. Now, how does that happen? Well, there could be a couple things. One is, it could be a defective cell, highly unlikely. The other thing is, it could be a bad connection between the cells, because the bike's been abused, jumping curbs and jumping off ramps and stuff, because this bike's not really made for that. It didn't even have a shock in the back, so all that shock goes up to the front. So that's something you should not try not to do, is try not to be too rough with your bike. The other thing that can cause this problem is cycling, meaning you let the battery go completely dead, and that's a big no-no with these things. You need to keep the charge levels up. For example, on my spare battery, I have to keep the charge levels. There's a responsibility that comes with a spare battery. If you don't keep the charge levels up on your spare battery, it's going to be worthless when you need it. So you have to keep the charge levels up on it, and once a month, if you don't cycle it, you should recharge it. So don't let it sit around. So if you get a spare battery, basically you need to charge it and store it and keep the charge levels up. So I believe this battery is rated for 800 cycles, I believe. So basically what that means is you could deplete this battery 800 times and recharge it. But the thing is, you lose some capacity each time you go when you do that. So that's why they like to keep the level up. They don't want the level to go all the way down, because when you recharge it, it may only come up to there, because you lost a cycle or there. It weakens the battery, basically what I'm saying. So the life of the battery won't last as long if you keep depleting the battery. So best rule of thumb, when that battery gets down to 1 bar, charge it or replace it with a charged battery. So the battery should last you 3 to 5 years, and they don't say normal use, they say regular use. That means that if you have an electric bike and you park in the garage and you just leave it there and don't ride it for 6 to 8 months, these batteries aren't going to last you very long unless you properly maintain them, meaning that you keep an eye on the charge levels and keep the charge levels up when it sets. So that's about all I got about battery care. So what I suggest is a timer. Keep that table of contents that's in your handbook handy, and keep an eye on your mileage, so when you come back you know how many hours it should need to be charged. Plug in your charger, turn on your timer, walk away. That way you know you're not going to overcharge the battery, and that's another thing that kills the batteries, is overcharging and heat. One thing you should know about the batteries for the RadRover is I didn't talk too much about storage. I'm using the same rule for storage as it is for charging. 50 to 80 degrees in a dry, cool place is the best place to store these. It's important to not mishandle your batteries. Handle them with care. Don't throw them around, stuff like that. You're just asking for problems, and maybe even a fire. So that's another thing. When you charge them, you should charge them where you can periodically check on them. And when you check on them, what you're going to be checking is you're going to be checking to make sure that the charger's not so hot you can hardly touch it. that would be a sign that something's not right, or the battery's too hot, or taking an excessive amount of time to charge it. At that point, you should stop charging it and contact RadRover and try to figure out what's going on. Yeah, because once you burn down your house because of a battery, you're not going to feel too happy about it. So it's just better to keep an eye on these. That's all I'm saying. One other thing that you should be aware of, and this is for people who live in the southern part of the United States where it gets really hot. I live in southern Arizona, so before I even bought this bike, I was trying to find information about maximum temperature of operation. You know, what is the maximum recommended temperature that they recommend that it can be ridden in, and what it should not be ridden in. You know, because heat is probably one of the worst things for an electric bike. So I got the information back from the techs, and they told me that this bike can go up to 105 degrees, but anything at 105 or more should be ridden with extreme care. And what they meant by that is by periodically stopping and checking your hub temperature on your motor if it's too hot to the touch, and also your speed controller if it's too hot to the touch, or the battery is too hot to the touch. Any one of those things are too hot to the touch, then you should park the bike in a shady area and let it cool down, or turn off the electronics on the bike and completely ride it as a regular bike. That's what I was told. So I'm just letting you all know, because summer's coming.